How to actually get rich from nothing begins the moment you stop lying to yourself, because nothing changes until a man decides with absolute certainty that poverty is unacceptable, and that decision must be so strong it burns every excuse to ash. The truth is, riches do not come from hope, luck, or waiting. They come from a burning desire that refuses to die when circumstances say no. The man who gets rich from nothing is not smarter. He is obsessed. He defines exactly what he wants, fixes his mind on it daily, and moves toward it with faith created through action, not prayer alone. He does not drift. He does not test. He commits while others hesitate. He persists while others quit, and he understands that the world rewards value, not effort. So he learns how to solve problems that matter and demands payment for it. He removes himself from small thinkers, negative talkers, and comfort addicts, because environment shapes belief, and belief shapes behavior. Every failure becomes instruction. Every delay fuels discipline, because persistence is not optional. It is the price, and discipline is not motivation. It is obedience to a decision made when emotion was high. This is not easy, and it is not meant for everyone. But if a man will decide clearly, act relentlessly, think independently, and persist endlessly, riches have no choice but to answer him. Poverty is not lack of money, it's lack of decision, because the moment a person truly decides that their current condition is unacceptable, their entire mind begins to reorganize itself around escape. But most people never decide. They complain, they wish, they fantasize, yet they keep one foot safely planted in the life they claim to hate. And that hesitation is the real poverty, because money does not avoid people who are broke. It avoids people who are unsure, unclear, and undecided. The world only responds to certainty, and certainty is rare. That is why riches are rare. A man who gets rich from nothing is not blessed by luck. He is possessed by decision. He reaches a point where hunger becomes louder than fear, and desire becomes stronger than doubt. And from that moment on, his thinking changes. He no longer asks, "Can I?" He asks, "How must I?" And that question forces the mind to search for answers, opportunities, and paths that were invisible before, because the brain only reveals solutions to problems it believes must be solved, not problems it casually considers. Most people dabble with success the same way they dabble with the gym or discipline, with enthusiasm that fades the moment discomfort arrives. But wealth demands obsession, not interest. Obsession is staying when motivation dies. Obsession is working when applause is absent. Obsession is persisting when results are delayed, and persistence is the dividing line between those who dream and those who dominate. Understand this clearly. Effort alone does not create riches. Millions of people work hard and stay poor because effort without direction is exhaustion. Riches come for own value, and value comes from solving problems that matter to people who can pay. Which means the man who wants wealth must train his mind to think in terms of service, leverage, and scale, not survival, not hourly labor, not comfort. He must stop trading time for money and start trading thinking for money, ideas for money, systems for money. And this requires discipline so severe it offends average minds, discipline to think daily about one chief aim, discipline to say no to distractions that feel good but lead nowhere, discipline to repeat boring actions long after excitement disappears, because excitement never built empires, consistency did, and along the journey failure is guaranteed. But failure is not punishment. It is instruction. Each setback refines the plan, sharpens the mind, and strengthens belief if the individual refuses to quit. But most quit early because they expect quick validation. They want proof before persistence, not realizing persistence creates the proof. Faith is not something you wait for. It is something you manufacture through repeated action. Action taken in uncertainty builds confidence, and confidence compounds into belief. And belief fuels more action, until momentum forms, and momentum is unstoppable. But momentum only comes to those who stay long enough. Environment plays a ruthless role here, because no one rises permanently in an environment that constantly pulls them down. Small minds poison big visions, comfort kills hunger, and association determines aspiration, which is why anyone serious about wealth must be willing to walk alone for a while, misunderstood, criticized, doubted, because approval is the enemy of greatness, and security is the enemy of riches. This path is not fair and it is not gentle. It demands sacrifice, delayed gratification, and an unshakable refusal to return to the life you escaped from. Because nothing is more dangerous than partial success, it tempts you to stop growing. But the man who truly decides never negotiates with his old self. He burns the bridge, commits fully, and persists until results arrive, not because it is easy, but because quitting is no longer an option. And when decision becomes final, action becomes automatic, persistence becomes natural, and riches become inevitable. Getting rich starts with obsession, not balance, because balance is a luxury sold to people who are afraid of committing fully to anything meaningful. And obsession is what separates those who escape ordinary life from those who spend their entire existence managing it. The truth most people avoid is that nothing extraordinary is built in moderation. No empire, no fortune, no legacy was created by someone carefully protecting comfort, time, and energy. Equally, wealth demands imbalance. It demands that for a period of your life, you care more than others, work longer than others, think deeper than others, and tolerate pressure that others run from. Yet society teaches people to seek balance before they have anything worth balancing, which creates average outcomes and frustrated lives. Obsession is not madness. It is focused intensity directed at one clear objective until results appear. And without it, desire stays weak and ambition stays theoretical. The man who gets rich from nothing becomes consumed by his aim, not emotionally unstable, but mentally locked in. His mind returns to the goal repeatedly, automatically, even when distracted, because obsession trains the subconscious to hunt for opportunities everywhere. While a balanced mind looks for rest, entertainment, and escape, obsession rewires priorities. Suddenly wasting time feels painful, distractions feel expensive, and excuses feel insulting, because every minute not invested in the mission feels like betrayal of the future self. And this level of focus scares people, which is why they label it unhealthy. But what is truly unhealthy is spending decades trapped in financial stress pretending balance will save you. Obsession creates momentum, and momentum silences doubt, because doubt survives in idle minds. But obsession leaves no room for hesitation. It replaces overthinking with action and fear with repetition. The obsessed individual studies relentlessly, experiments aggressively, and applies immediately, not waiting for perfect conditions, not seeking permission, not asking for approval, because obsession does not negotiate with uncertainty. It moves through it, and through this movement skills are built, confidence is earned, and competence compounds. Most people want motivation, but obsession does not rely on motivation. It relies on commitment. Motivation fades when results delay. Obsession persists because quitting is not emotionally available as an option, and that persistence is what transforms ordinary ideas into profitable outcomes. Understand this clearly. Obsession is temporary. Poverty is permanent if you avoid it. The imbalance required to build wealth does not last forever, but the freedom it creates does. Yet people reject short-term obsession because they fear judgment, loneliness, and discomfort, not realizing that judgment passes. Loneliness is temporary, and discomfort is the price of growth. While regret lasts a lifetime, obsession forces sacrifices, but sacrifice is simply prioritizing what matters most. It means saying no to parties to say yes to progress, saying no to comfort to say yes to competence, and saying no to distractions to say yes to direction. And direction is what most people lack. They are busy but unfocused, active but unproductive, exhausted yet broke, because effort without obsession scatters energy across too many targets. Wealth demands concentration, one main pursuit, one dominating purpose, applied with relentless intensity. And when mistakes happen, obsession does not retreat, it recalibrates. Failure does not discourage the obsessed mind. It educates it. Every loss becomes feedback. Every delay sharpens strategy, and every rejectio. End strengthens resolve, because obsession ties identity to improvement, not outcomes, which makes the individual anti-fragile. The environment responds differently to obsessed people. Opportunities appear because energy attracts attention. People offer help because clarity inspires confidence. and resources flow toward those who demonstrate seriousness through action. But balance seekers send mixed signals, uncertain energy, half commitment, which produces half results. Obsession builds belief, not through affirmations, but through evidence. Small wins earned through persistent action compound into unshakable confidence, and confidence accelerates execution. This cycle continues until success becomes predictable rather than accidental, but obsession also demands discipline, because without discipline, obsession becomes chaos. True obsession is controlled fire, directed effort, structured intensity, daily routines that reinforce progress even when emotions fluctuate. And this is why obsession outperforms talent, luck, and intelligence, because disciplined obsession keeps showing up, keeps refining, keeps executing while others stop, and eventually the gap becomes irreversible. And at that point, people call it overnight success, ignoring the years of imbalance that made it inevitable. Getting rich does not require balance at the start. It requires obsession, because balance maintains life. Obsession transforms it. And those who are willing to be obsessed temporarily earn the freedom to live balanced permanently, while those who cling to balance early remain trapped managing survival forever. Desire must become a burning, unreasonable demand, because weak wishes accomplish nothing. A casual want produces casual results, and most people think they want wealth when all they feel is a passing interest or a polite hope. But real riches never bend to polite hopes. They respond only to a fire that consumes the mind. The man who truly escapes nothing is obsessed with his vision until it becomes irrational, until it overrides comfort, doubt, and fear. Desire alone is not enough. It must escalate into an urgent, intolerable demand, a force so relentless that doing nothing becomes impossible. Living without pursuit feels like suffocation, and failure to act becomes a source of shame rather than neutrality. This kind of desire does not negotiate with excuses. It does not wait for perfect timing. It forces the mind to create solutions, opportunities, and strategies where none existed before. The ordinary mind will say, "I want to be rich," and continue scrolling. The extraordinary mind says, "I must be rich," and refuses to pause until it is. This unreasonable demand generates energy, focus, and persistence that cannot be manufactured by discipline alone. When desire becomes that powerful, procrastination dies, hesitation is crushed, and fear no longer dictates choices. Every waking hour is dominated by the question, "How do I make this happen?" And every action measured against that standard. The individual rewires habits, associates only with people who fuel progress, rejects distractions that dilute energy, and prioritizes learning, networking, and problem-solving above temporary pleasure. The fire of desire also transforms perception. It turns obstacles into challenges, scarcity into opportunity, rejection into feedback, because the mind becomes incapable of accepting limits, and every no encountered only fuels determination. An unreasonable demand forces audacity, the kind of bold moves most people label reckless but are essential for disproportionate rewards. Risk is no longer optional. Calculated risk becomes instinct, because inaction becomes far more painful than potential loss. The obsessed mind calculates consequences quickly and prioritizes action, while ordinary minds remain paralyzed by fear of imperfection. This is why millionaires and innovators rarely look conventional. They act disproportionately to their circumstances, driven by the burning insistence that failure is unacceptable and their desire shapes reality. Because persistent, intense demand provokes external response, resources align, opportunities appear, connections form, and luck becomes predictable. But desire alone is not magic. It must be combined with clarity, a specific vision, actionable plan, and consistent execution. Vague wanting produces nothing, but a vivid, unreasonable demand focuses the mind like a laser, cutting through distraction, cutting through indecision, cutting through mediocrity, and every step taken under this pressure compounds exponentially. Persistence under this fire becomes automatic, because giving up is not a choice. The mind has been trained to resist complacency, and every failure encountered is no longer a deterrent, but a tool for recalibration. Discipline is born naturally. because obsession with the demand consumes all energy that would otherwise leak into trivial pursuits. The unreasonable demand rewires psychology, physiology, and environment. It forces you to wake early, think longer, work harder, and sacrifice gladly. It forces negotiation only with facts, not emotions, and in this state, creativity expands. Because the mind is under pressure, urgency sharpens insight, and hunger drives innovation. The ordinary man avoids pressure. The extraordinary man embraces it because desire has made demand unavoidable. This is the secret ignored by the masses. The bigger the demand, the stronger the force that drives action. The clearer the vision, the faster the progress, and the more inevitable the results. Nothing can resist a person whose desire has become unreasonable, because the fire is internal, relentless, and self-sustaining. It does not wait for external validation, does not stop for setbacks, does not negotiate with fear. It consumes comfort and excuses alike. It transforms thinking, habits, and decisions. It reshapes identity until the individual becomes the kind of person who must, who will, who cannot fail, and at that point wealth is no longer a possibility or a dream. It is the inevitable outcome of a mind that has refused to remain small, refused to accept limits, refused to live with half effort, because desire has become a burning, unreasonable demand, and the world always responds to fire. Clear goals beat talent, luck, and education, because talent is wasted without direction, luck is fleeting, and education only informs the mind. Goals, however, give purpose to action, focus to energy, and structure to ambition. Most people wander through life hoping their natural abilities or random chance will deliver wealth. Yet the truth is that without clarity, effort scatters, opportunities are missed, and even the brightest minds accomplish little. A man with talent but no goal is like a gun without a target, capable of power but aimless. A lucky person without a goal drifts, squanders advantages, and leaves fortune to randomness, and educated individuals who lack focus spend years acquiring knowledge they never apply. Yet the person with a clear, defined goal approaches every day with a roadmap, every action measured against a benchmark, every decision filtered through the lens of purpose. Goals create obsession. Obsession creates action. Action produces results, and results reinforce belief. Without clear goals, momentum never forms. Energy leaks into distraction, and hesitation dominates choices. A well-defined goal transforms abstract desire into concrete steps. It forces the mind to identify resources, seek mentors, analyze markets, and anticipate obstacles. Clarity sharpens vision, and clarity drives accountability. People often overestimate talent, hope for luck, or rely on education, but clarity trumps all because it aligns thought and behavior. Goals are not wishes. They are contracts with the self, specifying exactly what must be achieved and by when. And this specificity eliminates doubt, excuses, and indecision. The individual with a clear goal develops a mental map that guides action through uncertainty. Every small success becomes feedback, every failure becomes instruction, and progress compounds as focus intensifies. Talent may open doors, but goals build the staircase. Luck may nudge opportunity, but goals convert it into achievement. And education may provide tools, but goals direct how those tools are used to create value. Clarity also generates confidence, because knowing the destination reduces fear of the unknown. It removes the paralysis that comes from scattered thought, and it replaces hesitation with purpose. When the goal is crystal clear, the mind prioritizes automatically, time is allocated ruthlessly, and energy is reserved for high-leverage tasks that produce measurable results. The distracted and uncommitted waste energy on trivia, social validation, or short-term comfort. But those with clear goals understand that every choice either accelerates them toward the target or delays progress. Cheech. Here is no neutral ground. The clarity of a goal forces the individual to act decisively, to persist relentlessly, and to innovate constantly. Obstacles are no longer deterrents, but challenges to be solved. Setbacks are not reasons to quit, but signals to adjust. Because a defined objective creates a mental framework for problem-solving, strategic thinking, and adaptive execution, Clarity also shapes perception. It identifies opportunity where the unfocused see only noise. It attracts allies who resonate with purpose. It commands attention from resources that respond to seriousness. And it builds momentum that luck alone cannot provide. Talent can be replicated. Luck is unpredictable. Education is widely accessible. But a clear, burning goal is rare and personal. It defines identity, aligns effort, and generates resilience. People with vague intentions wait for conditions to be perfect, for inspiration to strike, for luck to favor them, but those with clear goals act in uncertainty, embrace discomfort, and persist when the majority would retreat. They learn faster, adapt quicker, and execute more efficiently. Clarity eliminates wasted motion, misaligned effort, and second-guessing. It channels obsession into productive avenues, focus into consistent action, and ambition into measurable milestones over time. These compounding effects produce results far beyond what raw talent, random luck, or formal education could ever achieve. And this is why goal-oriented individuals dominate every arena. They do not rely on external circumstances to create advantage. They create advantage by directing every thought, decision, and action toward the outcome they demand. Their success is not mysterious. It is inevitable, because their mind, behavior, and environment all bend toward the clearly defined target. The person without clear goals is reactive, passive, and at the mercy of chance, while the person with a crystal clear goal is proactive, deliberate, and unstoppable. They wake each day with purpose. They measure every step against progress. They correct errors swiftly, and they refuse to be distracted by minor comforts or temporary setbacks. Goals create structure where chaos would otherwise dominate, confidence where doubt would paralyze, momentum where stagnation would reign, and results where effort alone would fail. And ultimately, the clarity of a goal transforms ordinary human potential into extraordinary achievement, because it forces the individual to think, act, and persist at a level far above the average, aligning talent, opportunity, and knowledge toward a single, unrelenting aim. And this is why clear goals beat talent, luck, and education every single time, because they convert intention into action, potential into results, and desire into measurable, unstoppable wealth. Most people fail because they hesitate too long, because the human mind is wired to seek comfort, avoid risk, and delay decisions until every condition appears perfect, yet perfection never arrives, and every moment spent waiting is an opportunity lost. Hesitation is the silent killer of ambition. It turns potential into regret, ideas into dust, and opportunities into memories. The person who hesitates measures, doubts, and weighs consequences endlessly, imagining what could go wrong while failing to act at all. Meanwhile, action, even imperfect action, compounds, accelerates, and teaches lessons that indecision never will. History is filled with those who had talent, knowledge, and ideas, but failed simply because they waited too long. And conversely, the bold, the relentless, and the decisive achieved extraordinary results with far less than perfect conditions. Hesitation is dangerous because it is invisible. It masquerades as prudence, planning, and caution, but in reality it is procrastination disguised as wisdom. The person who hesitates too long tells themselves, "I will start tomorrow," "I need more preparation," or "I am not ready yet." But the truth is that readiness is never absolute. Success rewards motion, not perfection, and fortune favors decisiveness. Hesitation also breeds fear, because every day spent idle allows doubt to grow, uncertainty to feel larger than it is, and opportunities to slip beyond reach. The hesitant mind overestimates obstacles, underestimates its own capability, and imagines excuses where solutions exist. And in doing so, it trains itself to expect failure, to avoid risk, and to accept mediocrity. Whereas the decisive individual acts immediately, adjusts as they go, and lets action generate knowledge, clarity, and momentum. Hesitation is a luxury the poor cannot afford, the ambitious cannot tolerate, and the wealthy have long since abandoned. It is a subtle death, a creeping paralysis that begins in thought but manifests in circumstance. Because the longer a person waits, the more life moves on without them. Timing is crucial, but waiting for the perfect moment is a myth. The right time rarely arrives without action to create it, and the window of opportunity narrows with every second. Hesitation also amplifies external resistance. because every day delayed strengthens competition, entrenches circumstances, and diminishes leverage. The decisive person seizes opportunity quickly, creates momentum, and dominates, while others deliberate. The hesitant person loses courage as doubt compounds, loses clarity as delay stretches indefinitely, and loses faith in their own vision because inaction breeds insecurity, fear, and resentment. Hesitation is self-perpetuating because once a person delays, the mind rationalizes further delay, turning temporary indecision into habit and eventually into identity. The habitual hesitator becomes someone who waits for life to happen, rather than someone who makes it happen. Yet action, even imperfect action, breaks the cycle, forces learning, accelerates results, and generates confidence. Decisiveness is not recklessness. It is informed courage applied IMM. Immediately, it is the willingness to accept responsibility, take risks, and tolerate discomfort in pursuit of a goal. The decisive individual understands that mistakes will occur, setbacks are inevitable, but the cost of delay is far greater than the cost of error. Hesitation is expensive, not in money alone, but in time, momentum, confidence, and opportunities that vanish silently. Every day delayed is a day lost forever. Every idea not executed is potential wasted, and every opportunity ignored is advantage surrendered to someone willing to act. Hesitation also kills innovation because new ideas require immediate testing, iteration, and refinement, while those who wait too long allow the market, competitors, and circumstances to pass them by. Decisiveness turns ideas into experiments, failures into lessons, and action into mastery. Hesitation turns brilliance into mediocrity, ambition into regret, and desire into a memory of what could have been. And therefore, the difference between failure and success is almost never talent, knowledge, or resources. It is the willingness to act, the courage to move forward despite uncertainty, the boldness to begin before all signs align, and the persistence to continue long after comfort would call you back. Hesitation is the thief of destiny, and those who refuse to let it govern them create lives and wealth far beyond the cautious majority. They understand instinctively that the cost of inaction far outweighs the risk of error, that the momentum generated by even imperfect action compounds faster than waiting ever could, and that every moment wasted in hesitation is a moment someone else uses to pull ahead. The decisive person creates opportunity, defines timing, and forces circumstances to respond, while the hesitant allow life to define them, delay to dominate them, and fear to dictate their future. So remember this: most people fail not because they lack ability, resources, or vision, but because they hesitate too long, because they are trapped in thought rather than action, waiting for certainty that does not exist, and refusing to risk the temporary discomfort required to achieve lasting success. Decisiveness is not optional. It is the essential fuel for extraordinary achievement. And until a person learns to act immediately, boldly, and persistently, they remain chained to mediocrity while the world rewards the swift, the relentless, and the brave. Faith is self-created through repeated action, because waiting for belief to arrive spontaneously is a trap most people fall into. They imagine that confidence, conviction, or certainty are gifts bestowed by luck, inspiration, or external approval. But the truth is that faith is forged, not given. It is not a feeling, but a muscle strengthened through persistent, consistent effort. A man who wants to achieve extraordinary results cannot sit idly hoping for belief to catch up with desire. He must act first. And through action, belief grows. The process is sim. Plea but brutal, act, observe results, adjust, repeat over and over. Each step taken despite fear, doubt, or discomfort builds evidence that the mind cannot ignore, and this evidence is faith. Repeated action creates a feedback loop. The more you act, the more you see progress. The more you see progress, the more your confidence strengthens. And the more your confidence strengthens, the easier it becomes to act. Again, in this way, belief is not abstract. It is empirical, measured, and undeniable. Yet most people try to generate faith through thinking or wishing. Rather than doing, they read motivational books, watch speeches, or imagine success, hoping that belief will arrive. But the mind does not respond to fantasy. It responds to experience, to proof, to action that demonstrates capability. Repeated action teaches the brain to trust itself, to trust decision-making, and to tolerate discomfort. And this trust compounds over time until doubt diminishes, hesitation vanishes, and certainty dominates. The principle applies universally. Wealth, skill, health, or influence are all built not through hope, but through deliberate, repeated, imperfect action. Action taken under pressure, action taken without guarantee, and action sustained long after excitement fades. Each completed task reinforces the belief that the next, harder step can also be completed. And this is the cycle that separates ordinary people from those who achieve the extraordinary. Without repeated action, faith is fragile, easily shaken by failure, criticism, or setback. But when action becomes habitual, the individual becomes self-reliant, unstoppable, and resilient. The hesitant rely on external validation to generate belief. The proactive build it internally through evidence. And this internal faith becomes a force multiplier, allowing decisions to be made quickly, risks to be taken confidently, and persistence to continue when results lag. Repeated action also rewires perception. It transforms obstacles into challenges, risk into opportunity, and failure into instruction, because each act proves that the person is capable. Each effort produces results, however small, and each correction strengthens skill and judgment. This is why successful people appear fearless. Their faith was earned through countless steps taken despite fear, not through wishful thinking. The more consistently action is applied, the stronger faith becomes until it dominates emotions, silences doubt, and drives unstoppable momentum. In practice, this means committing to daily steps toward a goal, no matter how small or imperfect, showing up even when motivation fades, learning relentlessly from outcomes, iterating strategies, and refusing to pause until progress accumulates into measurable results. The process is brutal because it requires consistency, patience, and tolerance for discomfort. But the alternative is stagnation, indecision, and perpetual uncertainty. Repeated action does not guarantee immediate success, but it guarantees belief in one's ability to reach it. And belief, once internalized, multiplies results far beyond what talent, luck, or education alone could produce. Every small victory achieved through action feeds confidence. Every challenge overcome reinforces competence, and every obstacle faced without retreat builds the muscle of faith. The habitual actor eventually develops an unshakable certainty, not because circumstances are perfect, not because obstacles vanish, but because repeated action proves beyond question that the individual can handle whatever arises. Faith created this way is durable, adaptive, and unshakable because it is grounded in reality, tested by effort, and validated by results. The mind comes to trust itself. Decisions are made faster, risks are calculated more accurately, and momentum accelerates naturally. Repeated action also eliminates fear of failure, because the individual knows through experience that setbacks are temporary, lessons are abundant, and recovery is possible. Faith, once built, becomes a lens through which every decision, every opportunity, and every challenge is filtered. It reduces hesitation, amplifies focus, and increases the likelihood of success. And it is completely self-generated, dependent on no one, nothing, and no circumstance. The only requirement is the willingness to act, to continue acting, and to act again despite doubt, discomfort, or delay. And as this cycle compounds, the individual transforms from someone who hopes into someone who knows, someone who reacts into someone who creates, someone who is at the mercy of chance into someone who commands destiny. Repeated action is the forge, faith is the steel, and the man who understands this never waits for belief to arrive. He manufactures it relentlessly, decisively, and without excuse, until faith is no longer optional. It is automatic, inherent, and unstoppable. Persistence is the separator between wishers and winners, because talent, ideas, and luck are worthless without the relentless drive to keep moving when everything inside screams to quit. Most people think they can achieve greatness by trying once or twice, by showing up when convenient, by giving up when results delay. But the harsh truth is that winners are not those who start strong. They are those who endure longest. Persistence is not merely sticking with a plan. It is an unyielding commitment to action, improvement, and adaptation. Even when failure mocks, setbacks punish, and doubt invades, the average person abandons ambition at the first obstacle, the first criticism, or the first sign of discomfort. The winner thrives on these trials, using them as fuel to drive further effort. Persistence transforms potential into skill, vision into reality, and desire into tangible results. It compounds advantage over time, because each action, no matter how small, builds experience, confidence, and momentum. While the hesitant stagnate, the persistent accumulate Work quietly and visibly until results explode into success. Understanding persistence is critical because life is filled with moments that test endurance. Opportunities rarely appear fully formed. Markets fluctuate, competitors advance, and circumstances shift. The person who is persistent does not wait for perfect conditions. They act in uncertainty, adjust continuously, and maintain focus on the ultimate goal. Persistence is not mindless repetition. It is deliberate, intelligent, and adaptive action taken without interruption. It is showing up when motivation dies, acting when fear is high, and learning when failure arrives. Wishers only imagine success. They dream without discipline, hope without action, desire without execution, but winners persist through difficulty, pain, and doubt, turning obstacles into lessons, mistakes into strategy, and temporary defeats into long-term advantage. Every great achievement in history was built on repeated action in the face of resistance. The world does not reward the enthusiastic beginner who stops at the first sign of struggle. It rewards those who endure, iterate, and refine. Over time, persistence also creates resilience, the ability to continue acting when external circumstances are hostile, when resources are limited, and when the environment seems against you. This resilience is what separates ordinary people from extraordinary achievers. Persistence trains the mind to tolerate discomfort, to ignore distractions, and to maintain focus under pressure. It turns fear into energy, frustration into strategy, and doubt into determination. Winners understand that success is not linear. It is the cumulative result of repeated effort, consistency, and the refusal to quit. While wishers interpret setbacks as proof that the dream is impossible, persistent individuals interpret setbacks as feedback, data, and fuel, and they adapt, iterate, and continue relentlessly. Persistence also attracts opportunity because people and resources are drawn to those who refuse to stop. Momentum builds around unyielding action, networks expand, credibility forms, and doors open to those who are visible in their effort. The world naturally resists instant gratification, and this resistance weeds out the faint-hearted. Persistence separates those who are serious from those who are casual, those who will create leverage from those who will watch it pass by. And this is why winners appear unstoppable, because they have trained themselves to endure longer, push harder, and adapt faster than anyone else. Persistence compounds results exponentially. The small, consistent actions of today magnify into breakthroughs tomorrow. The minor adjustments in strategy accumulate into mastery, and the refusal to quit ensures that when luck arrives, it is captured and multiplied. Wishers wait for the perfect idea, the perfect timing, or the perfect conditions. Persistent winners create them through repeated action, learning, and adaptation. No ski. No talent, no advantage can replace the force of consistent, intelligent, and unrelenting persistence. It is persistence that turns dreams into plans, plans into systems, and systems into wealth. Every failure encountered by a persistent person becomes a stepping stone. Every rejection becomes a lesson. Every delay strengthens patience, focus, and resilience. The wishers complain about circumstances, blame external factors, and retreat at the first sign of difficulty. But winners internalize responsibility, own every outcome, and keep moving. Persistence also creates belief in oneself, because action breeds evidence, evidence breeds confidence, and confidence fuels more action, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of unstoppable momentum. The difference between someone who achieves extraordinary results and someone who merely hopes is rarely intelligence, talent, or luck. It is the simple, brutal refusal to quit, The dogged determination to continue acting when all others have given up. Persistence is the quiet, invisible force behind every monumental success. It separates those who merely wish from those who win. Because while wishers dream, winners endure, adapt, and execute relentlessly. And in the end, persistence is not just a habit, it is a mindset, a lifestyle, and the ultimate weapon in converting desire, skill, and opportunity into undeniable results. Environment either builds you or destroys you because human beings are mirrors of the spaces, people, and influences they immerse themselves in. Most individuals underestimate the invisible weight of surroundings, assuming that talent, desire, or luck alone will determine their destiny. But the harsh truth is that even the strongest ambition can be sabotaged by the wrong environment. Negativity, mediocrity, and distractions act like poison, slowly eroding confidence, killing focus, and normalizing failure, while positive, ambitious, and focused environments accelerate growth, amplify discipline, and make success inevitable. Every habit, thought, and decision is shaped by cues from the surroundings, the people you associate with, the media you consume, the routines you adopt, and the standards that govern your daily life. A toxic environment constantly reinforces doubt, fear, and mediocrity, convincing you that your dreams are unrealistic, that struggle is impossible, and that compromise is acceptable. This is why so many capable people remain average. They are surrounded by those who question ambition, tolerate laziness, and celebrate excuses. The mind is highly adaptive. It conforms to patterns repeated in its environment, and without conscious intervention, it absorbs beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors passively, building self-limiting systems that feel comfortable but kill potential. On the other hand, an empowering environment teaches, challenges, and compels. It demands higher standards, rewards persistence, and surrounds the individual with people who reflect the success they aspire. 2. Habits form quickly under influence, and consistent exposure to high-performing, motivated, and knowledgeable individuals accelerates skill, confidence, and vision. Environment also shapes emotional resilience, because when setbacks occur, a supportive network or inspiring surroundings teach problem-solving and persistence, while negative or stagnant environments normalize quitting and magnify fear. And this effect is subtle but cumulative. Over time, the difference between a destructive environment and a constructive one becomes enormous. Success is not only about what you do, but also about where you operate and who you allow into your orbit. The world is ruthless, and it exploits indecision, distraction, and weak association. Proximity to mediocrity diminishes drive, while proximity to excellence ignites action. Even the best ideas or the strongest desires cannot survive in an environment that drains energy, distracts attention, and validates excuses. Deliberate selection of environment is therefore a strategic act. It is choosing a battlefield where your strengths are amplified and weaknesses minimized. It is creating a space where action, learning, and adaptation are inevitable outcomes. Environment is not just external. It also includes the inputs you allow into your mind, books, media, conversations, and culture, all of which reinforce either ambition or complacency. To build yourself, you must immerse in environments that challenge, educate, and inspire, because passive exposure to negativity is corrosive, while deliberate immersion in excellence is transformative. The man who surrounds himself with ambitious thinkers, persistent doers, and uncompromising standards internalizes these traits, and they become part of his identity, while those who cling to toxic or stagnant surroundings internalize limitations, doubts, and mediocrity as their default state. Environment also dictates speed of growth, because in a constructive environment, learning accelerates, mistakes are corrected faster, and momentum builds naturally, whereas in a destructive environment, the same effort produces minimal results, frustration compounds, and confidence erodes. The world is too fast, too competitive, and too unforgiving for anyone to succeed in isolation or under poor influence. Awareness of this fact separates those who win from those who stagnate. Choosing your surroundings consciously is not optional. It is essential, and it requires courage, because leaving familiar but destructive spaces often meets resistance, criticism, and isolation. Yet the cost of staying is far higher. Environment also influences decisions indirectly through culture, social norms, and accepted behaviors. Mediocrity feels safe, excuses feel justified, and ambition feels unreasonable in toxic spaces. The deliberate individual recognizes this and constructs a personal ecosystem that reinforces high standards, accountability, and relentless pursuit. Environment shapes identity. Becca. Use repeated exposure to excellence rewires thinking, habits, and self-perception, turning potential into action, hesitation into decisiveness, and dreams into measurable results. Destructive environments amplify stress, sabotage motivation, and normalize failure, while constructive environments increase resilience, focus, and capacity to endure discomfort. And ultimately, the fastest, most reliable way to transform your life is to transform your environment deliberately, ruthlessly, and without compromise, removing influences that diminish, distract, or discourage, and immersing yourself in conditions that challenge, elevate, and accelerate you. Because environment is the silent partner in every action, every decision, and every outcome, and those who fail to control it, consciously or unconsciously, are already at a disadvantage, while those who master their environment harness its power, making success not just possible, but inevitable. Environment either builds you or destroys you, and there is no middle ground. The only choice is deliberate. Relentless alignment with spaces, people, and routines that elevate your mind, body, and spirit toward the results you demand. Because in the end, surroundings shape action, action shapes habits, habits shape character, and character shapes destiny. And this truth is uncompromising, universal, and unavoidable. Riches come from value, not hard work alone, because effort without direction is like a wheel spinning in mud. Motion exists, but progress does not. Most people confuse activity with productivity, believing that long hours, sweat, and repetition automatically lead to wealth. Yet millions work tirelessly and remain broke. The harsh truth is that money flows to those who create something people need, want, or cannot live without, and the scale of the reward is directly proportional to the magnitude of the value delivered. Hard work is necessary but insufficient. It is the vehicle, not the fuel. Without value, labor is wasted energy. A man can toil endlessly in obscurity, producing little of significance, while another who focuses on meaningful output leverages intelligence, creativity, and skill to generate disproportionate returns. Value is what transforms problems into opportunities, scarcity into demand, and ideas into assets. The pursuit of value requires deep understanding of markets, human psychology, and unmet needs, not just brute effort. A worker sweats for a paycheck. A value creator designs solutions that people are willing to pay for repeatedly. And this distinction is critical because the first trades time for money, limited and linear, while the second trades ideas, systems, and leverage for wealth, exponential and scalable. Value is also amplified through execution, clarity, and persistence, because brilliant concepts are worthless if never applied, delivered, or optimized. The world rewards what impacts lives, solves pressing problems, and creates measurable benefit. And ignoring this fact is why many hardworking people stay trapped in mediocrity. To generate true wealth, one must identify where the pain points are, understand who experiences them, and develop solutions that are both effective and desirable. This requires observation, creativity, and relentless refinement. Riches are a reflection of the significance of the contribution, not the duration of the effort, and every major fortune in history was built by people who delivered extraordinary value consistently. The hardest workers often fail because they do not focus on outcomes that matter. They substitute motion for impact, they mistake busyness for progress, and they confuse compliance with entrepreneurship, Value, on the other hand, commands attention, attracts resources, and compels compensation. The greater the value, the more the world is willing to exchange. And this is why wealth is rarely linear, incremental, or proportional to hours worked. The person who understands value leverages talent, skill, and networks strategically, not aimlessly. They multiply the effect of their actions by creating solutions that others cannot replicate easily, by scaling influence, and by focusing relentlessly on needs that are urgent, important, and monetizable. Hard work without this focus often produces fatigue, frustration, and stagnation, whereas value-focused action produces leverage, freedom, and compounding rewards. Value is also amplified by perception, reputation, and delivery, because people pay for what they believe is scarce, effective, and transformational, and the individual who aligns actual impact with perceived impact maximizes reward. And this is where strategy, marketing, and positioning intersect with real value. Persistence alone is not sufficient unless it is channeled toward solving problems that matter. Effort without insight is wasted, but effort aligned with high-value objectives multiplies results exponentially. Every act of creation, improvement, or innovation that makes life easier, better, or more productive generates wealth, while endless repetition of low-impact tasks, no matter how hard, does not. Therefore, the richest individuals focus obsessively on the ratio between effort and value produced. They ruthlessly eliminate busy work, distractions, and actions that do not produce tangible impact. The world does not compensate effort in isolation. It compensates solutions, benefits, and transformation. And understanding this difference is the key to moving from struggle to abundance. Value also requires courage, because delivering something meaningful often involves risk, experimentation, and discomfort. Hard work alone is safe, predictable, and linear, but value creation often demands boldness, thinking differently, challenging norms, and providing what others avoid. And it is precisely this combination of courage, insight, and execution that produces disproportionate wealth. To internalize this principle, one must shift mindset from how hard am I to how much value am I producing, from counting hours to measuring impact, from tolerating mediocrity to demanding excellence, because riches respond not to effort, but to the significance of the contribution, scale of benefit, and scarcity of solution. The person who understands this leverages systems, networks, innovation, and strategy to magnify every ounce of effort into maximum value. They convert time, knowledge, and skill into products, services, or ideas that people cannot ignore, and in